Good afternoon, Crystal. How are you, ma'am?
I am fine, and yourself?
Doing very well. Doing very well. Thanks for asking.
Oh,
We have
that's
quite the thing to talk about today.
okay.
Again, going back to that article that you put before me, three things in no particular order, but trust your backup, which I think is the most important, and uh, let me see. I'm going to look down at my notes here. Yes, beneficiaries, backups, and trust. Yeah, so let's jump into that. Before we do that, may I read your bio?
You certainly may.
Cool. I'll probably let you talk this time. That'll be
Okay.
good too. Okay. Hello, everyone. Please welcome my friend and colleague, Crystal Mitchell. Crystal is a business coach and consultant. She's the CEO of Mitchell Business Solutions, a co director of Recycling Black Dollars. She's the co host of The Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert, another weekly online radio show, an instructor at Mount San Antonio Community College, also a certified network for teaching entrepreneurship instructor, and last but not least, a QuickBooks Pro Advisor financial strategist. Welcome, Crystal. Thanks for hanging out with me.
Thank you. It's a pleasure always.
Well, you're very kind, very kind. Okay, so we've got three biggies to talk about here. Um, Number one, a trust. Number two, um, benefits of, um, well, let's call it charitable giving. And then the last but not least is the backup.
Okay.
Yeah. So, any questions about that? Just kick us off. Any of those things?
I think it's very, very important. Obviously, it's interesting because we're right now in a season. I years ago I was the controller, bookkeeper, or accountant for a church,
Uh-huh.
and the very first year I noticed that um, in October, people tend to get up out of this get out of this world starting in October, and it becomes very persistent. I mean, it's continuous through until the end of December. A lot of
Hmm.
times it's happening. Yeah, I know it was a fun. I was with them for 6 years, and I was like, "Whoa, what is happening up in here?" And if you notice, well, in the last 3 months or since October, I've had a lot of friends and colleagues that have passed on,
Yeah, yeah, I've
and
had a
all of a
few.
sudden they were sick, and I mean they were healthy at the beginning of the year. I spoke to them, engaged with them, and then next thing I know, they're gone. And so
Um,
every single day I open up my Facebook page, there's someone that has been part of my world that's gone. But with that being
mm,
said, that it happens like in a split moment, right? It's a split
right.
second. They're here and they're gone, and so a lot of times when our trusts, our beneficiaries, especially our beneficiaries, we may have set that when we first started working somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
And totally forget about who, what, where, our life insurances or anything is an asset. And we just go on about our business and thinking, um, life is going to be the same way it has always been. And then all of a sudden, life occurrences take place. And next thing you know, your ex-husband is your trustee, or your
Okay.
ex-wife is your trustee, or the beneficiary.
Yeah.
And you're right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. That's
So
yeah.
I think that's a good way to kick it off. That this is something that happens more frequently than not.
I think you're absolutely right. That is a great way to kick it off. And I'm not an authority on trust, but I do know a little bit about what you just mentioned there at the end with regard to your well ex-husband, I suppose, someone who you do not want to be the main beneficiary. You want to make sure you keep those records upright. And I remember when I first learned about trust. Um, I thought it was a way to avoid taxes. And that's not it at all. It's a way
Mm-mm.
for you to have your wishes, you know, adhere to. Yeah.
Right.
And I think the big thing is you don't have to die for it to come true, right? I mean, for a will, you have to die. And
Mm-hmm.
then whatever you put in the will is what happens. But for a trust, you can still be very much alive and have that taken care of. So the question then becomes, do you need a trust or not? And that depends on everybody's situation. And to be honest with you, I'm not the person that someone should talk to about having a trust. I really am not. I really would have to defer to my colleagues that do that. And there's a whole slew of them. I got a bunch of folks that do nothing but um, determine what is an irrevocable, what's a revocable trust, how they operate, whether one should have one or not, how to build them, and none of these people are cheap. None of them are staying on my kitchen floor. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a big deal. It really,
Mm-hmm.
really is. And if you don't need a trust, I wouldn't do it. But if you do, and you got to find out, do you have some particular desires for a specific person that for example, once you pass away, or do you need to set something up for someone that's alive, something like uh, do you need to set up a pool of money for an organization, a pool of money for a person, and you want to have a trust manage that rather than yourself,
Mm-hmm.
those kinds of things, right? My father has a trust. I thought, oh wow, you don't have any money, and he has a trust. Someone in his church was kind enough to ask him what his needs are, and he gave them, and he has a trust now. So good for him, right?
Yeah.
Um, Very good for him. And I think I was talking about last time. I'm not sure, but I was thinking about, or I was talking about the person who's going to be the curator, or the person who's going to execute the will and make sure that all of that stuff is taken care of. The person who's going to get the book, as it were, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I have some books, but the person who's going to get the book um, needs to know a that there is a book, and B, that they should know where that book is. And so I asked my
Exactly.
dad, since he was, with it enough to create the documents and to create the
Mm-hmm.
book, who was supposed to execute that? And he, of course, said I was. And I thought, well, when were you going to tell me? Which I think is
When was
another
I gonna get
thing,
the book?
right? And where's the book, right? So he showed me this book. Oh, okay, you got it. So we had to have a conversation about that, and that's very cool. I think people should do that.
But I mean, it's phenomenal. I mean, he had, and thank God for his church, because a lot of times, I mean, look at how many wealthy people do not have a trust. I mean, look how many you just it just boggles my mind that somehow or another someone that is managing you did not tell you you needed a trust.
It is interesting. I think it's such a personal thing for so many of us that we tend to stay out of that business, which is one of the reasons why we have this online radio show, is to bring those things out, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you're absolutely right. Those of us who are, shall I say, left behind, those of us that are supposed to carry on, often we have situations where these things weren't taken care of, and now either we have to do it, and I've talked to some folks in my family who had some other family members, and all of a sudden the burial expenses are not taken care of, and that costs money, right? And the attitude of, well, I'm dead, I'm not going to worry about it, is not very kind. It really isn't.
No,
And
because it's the other people that you leave behind that you love, that all of a sudden get, they find out that this is the case, and now they're on the hook for it. They love their loved ones, and so they're going to take care of their loved
yeah, and
ones.
I used to tell people when I worked on the phone that some stranger like me is the last person someone needs to talk to when they're in a place of bereavement and they need to get some answers.
Mhm.
You don't want to talk to some stranger on the phone who has no knowledge of the situation that you have that you've
Right.
never talked to before. That's don't put somebody in that position. That's not good. As kind as I am, and I'm not very as kind as I am, get your paperwork right, right?
Get your paperwork
Get your
right.
paperwork right. Leave
Because
it
again,
before.
it happens. It can happen in a split moment,
It can very quick.
and you don't have time enough to you don't have time enough to do anything about it. And so get the paperwork in order.
Get your paperwork done. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's the trust thing, the trust conversation. Okay, let's talk about charitable giving. I thought this was very interesting because in the past when I've helped people plan for their retirement, and I think that's a definitely a good thing to put in the mix when you are thinking about the bills you need to pay. Let's see, so we got the light bill, etc. We have the saving for retirement. Okay, great. We have the emergency fund. Okay, good. So we've got all those things going. And then, oh yes, there's some charities that I want to keep alive. Great. Okay, let's put that in mix. Those are definitely important. It's just as important as everything else. So
Mhm.
I think that's great. And so when I saw this on the list here, that is the benefits of charitable giving in retirement, I thought, oh, that is absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect. Because many of us have Roth accounts where we can take money out of there without paying taxes on those, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Without paying once we retire, without paying uh, pre-retirement penalties, so we can take that money out. So that's good. But um, there's still opportunities to give gifts, still opportunities to make donations to charities, and we're not just talking about money, right? We're talking about things as well, artwork, what have you, cars, you name it. There are all kinds of things people can give away with regard to charity. And then
Mhm.
there's the gifts that you can give to your loved ones and what have you. So when you're talking with your financial advisor, and I cannot stress this enough, one of the things that I was a little bit disheartened about this article was that I don't remember it suggesting you get yourself a financial advisor to help you with this situation. And some people are going to say, well, I can just do it myself, DIY, do it yourself. We can go on to someplace online and get our own trust, and we don't have to go to an attorney, we don't have to do all that. We can go online, and I can just give the money um, to somebody that I want to give it to, the organizations like whatever radio show or particular charitable place. We can just do that.
Mhm.
We really don't need an attorney to do that. And I
Mhm.
think much of that is true. But some of our situations are a little bit more complicated than we think. And the emotional pull that they have on us can, can, shall I say, swerve or sort of lean our decisions in ways that we don't think that's a good idea. Like, oh, that kid never did go to college. I'm not giving him any money. Well, I mean, you might think that on Tuesday, but maybe like Wednesday, Thursday comes around and you talk to your spouse, you might go, yeah, I do love that person. I should put them in so, being able to talk things out with a financial advisor, and that is part of the deal. I've never met a financial advisor who didn't want to know exactly why it is you're making the decision so that they can make sure that that they're giving you the right advice. So,
Right.
so just kind of an aside, but I'm going to say for most of us, we need a financial advisor to, just as people rely upon me to help them build their nest egg so
Mhm.
they can take care of what they want to do. We need a financial advisor, and it's not me. I'll just say that right here and now. We need a financial advisor that's not me to set up the paperwork so that they can make that plan so they can live the rest of their days.
Right, right, right.
Yeah. One big reason for that is, you know, people don't tell me everything.
No, that's very true. People
They don't
keep
tell me
certain
everything.
things to themselves, so there's
Right.
no way you can. You are not a mind reader.
Exactly. And that's not always a bad thing. There's some things you don't need to tell me. So some things you need to go with your family. Now, that brings up another point. And I have some clients in this very same situation. If you have a financial advisor, do you need someone like me? Well, probably you do, right? Most financial advisors do not want to deal with a qualified plan or non-qualified plan. They don't want to deal with that.
Hmm.
For the amount of time that it takes for them to manage your assets, they can't make money for the most part managing the assets of 200 people in an organization and a particular. They just can't do it. There's just not enough
Hmm.
hours in the day, money in the there's too many piggies in the trough. There's not
Right.
enough money there to get that done. So there's a good chance that you do need someone like myself if you have a retirement plan, and you need a financial advisor, especially for that overall plan. Especially, I take care of folks that have fairly simple issues in retirement. But I always work with financial advisors, and I let them run the deal. They may have something going on that I don't understand. My job is to qualify plan and do the best, and I work with them to make sure you get the advice that you need. I do that all
Hmm.
the time. It's not a problem. Not a problem at all. So uh, be ready to do the charitable giving when you're, you know, when you're going to be retired. And for many folks, that's putting it into plans. So, okay, what does that mean? All right. So perhaps you're going to give $1,000 a year to this particular charity. Perhaps you're going to set up a trust, and that trust is going to manage X amount of dollars, and those dollars are going to go to this particular person, this particular institution, whatever it is. I don't know.
Hmm.
Perhaps, uh, you know, I don't know. You can just imagine what that can be. Perhaps you have. I've already told you that you should have monies that um, are you pull out and you have to pay taxes on them, and monies that are tax free. So you're doing that balance, right? And then all of a sudden, oh, this particular year, I want to reduce my tax liability a little bit more, so I'm going to
Hmm.
make a charitable contribution in the sum of $5,000, whatever, yada yada, to whatever charity. I hope to be in that situation. I don't know that many of us that are, but I would love to have too much money that I need to pay taxes. That would be awesome. Awesome. I'll just say that right now. That would be awesome. I long to have to pay taxes on too much money. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that would be that's what Ross. Remember Ross Perot, and he
Yeah.
said it's all right when you have to pay some taxes because that means you done made some
You
money.
made some money. Exactly. This is a good thing. This is a good thing.
Now you just got to know how to manage it and can protect it
There you go. There
and
you go.
reduce your liability.
There you go.
Right.
Nothing wrong with
Eh,
paying my fair share. I just want to be able to.
I just want to be you want to be able to have options and choices.
Awesome. Well said, ma'am. Well said. Well said. Actually, I have a I had a boss whose father said to him that retirement was not about money; it's about choices. And I think he was correct. I used to tell people that very often. It is about choices. You have the choice as to whether you're going to go to the state home or this private home situation,
Hmm.
whether you're going to have someone come in or whether you're going to have to move in with someone,
Hmm. Hmm.
whether you're going to move in with this person who wants you to move in with them, or this person who's just going to do it because they think they owe you, right?
Right. Exactly.
Right? Are you
Exactly.
gonna, yeah, are you going to move into that ADU, that mother-in-law quarter, or does someone have a spare bedroom that they want you to move into? So retirement is not about money; it's about choices. And
Yeah.
some,
It's about what is the life that if you've led an amazing life up until the time it came time to retire, right? You want to be able to continue to live that same amazing life in your retirement when you have free time
Mhm.
to live the life that you want. You're not going to work. You're not taking care of children. You're not all those obligations. You want it on your terms.
Yeah.
And so it's really, really sad when people have led amazing lives and when it comes to retirement, no matter how bright you are, no matter how much education you have, if there's not a plan and you've not planned for that retirement, it levels the playing field, man. So I think it's really about that. Um, the choice to live the life that you're accustomed to.
Crystal, I couldn't have said it any better myself, and I love that phrase that you sort of you used and kind of skirted. I'm going to change it just a little bit, but you said you get to decide the life that you want,
Hmm.
which is it's a wonderful sentiment. And it's just spot on. You get to decide what you want, and for so many of us in our society, uh, they haven't been able to do that through their working years. They've been saddled with responsibilities. They've always got to take care of someone else. They've always got to go here. They've always got to do that. They've always got to make this particular thing or do this particular thing. And so, retirement is an opportunity for you to do what you want
Hmm.
for so many of us. So
Hmm.
if we can swing that, um, that's great. So thank you for bringing that up. Okay, our last one is near and dear to my heart: the trusted person, the backup, the person that's supposed to know what's up. The person who
Hmm.
can jump in when the unexpected happens. Well, it's not really an unexpected. I mean, when you get right down to it, we're all going to either retire or die,
Right.
usually in that order, but not always. I mean, you know, you know. So, do you have someone in your life that, if just in case your cookie crumbles the wrong way, or do you have someone that's gonna um,
Yeah,
step
my
in and
sister.
say, "Oh, good for you"?
Yeah, my sister and um, my aunt. Those are. I have like three: my aunt, my cousin, and my sister. But she would be because she's here with me, and they're on the other side of the countryside.
Mm.
So she would be notifying them. But my aunt just turned yesterday, 81.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
on Friday, 81. And so, but
Oh,
my cousin,
congrats.
he's a pretty responsible human being, and so between the two of them, but yeah, and they would be administering everything for my niece and the
Oh,
baby.
okay.
Hmm.
Oh, good
They
for you.
would be making sure that she was taken care of and the baby was taken care of.
Oh, good, good. That's good.
Hmm.
It is kind of interesting how you determine who's important, who needs to be taken care of at those situations and those times, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have children. I mean, obviously, if I had kids, of course, it'd be my kids.
Mhm.
But so it would be my niece as primary, and then I have nephews, so
Mm,
mine would be extended out to the extended family. So
yeah,
they're the future. So making
yeah,
sure that they were taken care of.
yeah. That's great.
Hmm.
I'm not
Hmm.
sure what it was. I think when I signed up for insurance, yes, I have insurance. Finally, signed up for
Me
insurance.
too.
Yeah.
I
This
became a
whole
grown up.
right, the whole adult thing. It's expensive. I can tell you that adulting thing.
Yeah,
But
it is.
when I got some insurance, I had to start naming some people. So yeah, I'm a little late to the game, right? And so I called some people, like some friends, and I called my niece, who was very kind enough to say, "Yeah, Unc, I got you. What are we gonna do here?" Okay. And then the questions came out that I wasn't prepared to talk to her about. Oh. So we had to have that conversation, and lots of times she looked at me and went, really, really? And so we had to get through that as well. But yeah, I had to go through that process, and it's very important to do. And it's funny. It's sort of like the cobbler's kids' shoes, right? I would tell people you have to go through this process, and I would meet both sides of the equation. And I actually have, um, what do you call them, colleagues that specialize in having those conversations with people. They're financial advisors, and they work on succession planning and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they tell me that the the uh, the money part is easy. Figuring out the program is easy, and that's no problem. The problem is figuring out who gets the money. Figuring out why this part of the family doesn't talk to that part of the family, and how that's going to affect that document, right? And or that business or what have you. And so I don't. I think they feel that they should have been a therapist because they spend their time working through a lot of those situations. But I do like the idea. This is part of one of my favorite things here is you got to get a backup. And I think um, most folks don't realize that it's not just the old people that have to go through this. If
Mm-hmm.
right, if you're a younger person, helping your older person go through this is a good thing, and also helping guide your subsequent younger person, if that's the right word, person to
Mm-hmm.
go through it with you, that's a good
Mm-hmm.
thing too. And I have to keep coming back to one of our guests before, my friend Tony, who said, this is a family thing. We talk about generational wealth. We
Mm-hmm.
talk about how important that house is to pass on, if that's the only thing that you got, or if that's your deal, or how important it is to keep that business in the family, how important it is to make generational wealth, especially in lots of communities around the country, be you a minority community or an immigrant part of the community.
Mm-hmm.
And so this idea of um, making sure that the family understands the process and what's going on, uh, how things are going to go once this part of the family passes away, is uniquely intrinsically important. And
Mm-hmm.
for that reason, that's why I really like this section of the things to plan for, because as we are building our wealth, as we're building that accumulation stage, that is when we need to have those meetings about, okay, what's going to happen when I pass away? How is this family going to keep going? How do we
Mm-hmm.
transfer this wealth so that it just doesn't go away, unless y'all have pissed me off so much that I just want it to go away, which can happen, you
Which
know.
can happen. It happens every single day, right?
Right.
They make the decision. I also think in that, I think I mentioned it last week, that there should be another step. Um,
What now?
I said I mentioned this last week. There should be another step, and that other step is when you the person that's laying out what their wishes are, and they're leaving it to loved ones, siblings, grandchildren, things of that nature, especially siblings, children, your children. Um, you might need to put some sort of recording in place as exactly what in this day and age we're very digital, right? Because once that person's gone, everyone can interpret it what that person wanted based upon what they want, right? No, mommy would have wanted me to do this. Mommy, daddy would have wanted, and well, how dare mommy choose you over me and all that sort of stuff. So I think to because a lot of families have broken up after a loved one. And if you love your children and you want them to be able to live harmoniously in your aftermath, that you need to make very, very clear what your choices were. And so that there is no question about what you had intended. Because I have quite a few friends that are in court right now because of that,
Mm.
which means thousands and thousands of dollars are being spent unnecessarily because the mother was very clear on what they wanted. The
Hmm.
dad was very clear what he wanted, and the mom made some decisions 20 years after the dad had gone based upon what she felt was right. And so I have a really close friend that this is happening to, and the her siblings are like, no, that's not what she wanted. Yeah, that's exactly what she wanted because she did it on her own. But I think that next step was to create a digital memorandum, and that happens a lot in wealthy families. The attorney has, here's what they left. This is the letter they left, or this is the audio, video tape of what they wanted.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think the next step of that, I think, is for folks to realize, and I can say this because my family doesn't have any money or land or anything like that. But I think, you know, we on the outside, um, I don't know how we could handle it, but the reality of the situation is what's right is not always what they want.
Right.
So you can be the caretaker and the this and the that and the da da da, and rightfully, quote unquote, deserve, if we can use that word, deserve a piece of the pie, and yet that's not the way the cookie crumbles. It doesn't go that way, and accepting that is tough. On the other hand, if I'm a parent, I have some friends that are looking at that jewelry. And if I were a parent, I would check my oatmeal, a few times a week just to make sure it didn't start tasting funny. So I think it is an interesting situation, you know, uh, and that goes back to, I think, that goes back to that family thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have to, all of you have to come together, I would think, and make this decision. But I think you're making a very, very, very good point. First, you do the planning, and then second, you find a way to make sure that it is what you want and that it stays that way. That there is no interpretation. That there is no, well, I did X, and so I think this is what she wanted, or I deserve this because I did X, Y, and Z. No, let's not even. Why are we even going there? Why are
Yeah.
we even doing that, right? And you know, I think in the case of many folks, they do something so that they don't go through that situation. They don't go through that pain of what they deserve or what someone else deserves or what they want. And that makes them further from the family there as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's the unclarity, the lack of clarity. I'll put it that way. Doesn't do anybody any good. Um, but from the mouths of someone who ain't got no money and get no money. I have no idea. I'm sure there's some money in there, but who's not really worried about it, right? I'm
Right.
actually, and I'll say it right here and now. I'm hoping that my father spends his last $1,000, and I have to loan him some money to get through death, right?
Right.
He's worked hard. He's done all he's gonna do. I got a brain. I'm working. I'm cool. I just want him to enjoy his life. I don't want that legacy there, right?
Right.
That's just me. Some
Right.
other folks are like, this has been in our family for years. And if it goes over there to that sibling, it's going to be gone in a heartbeat. But I can
Mm-hmm.
keep it here. And that's what
Mm-hmm.
mom would have wanted. You know, those are both valid points. Those two, I think, are both valid.
Right, exactly. Very valid. And that's why I said that the clear all that up for clarity purposes. If the person that's leaving us makes it very, very clear what they're, or even sit them down and is recorded. This is what I want.
There you go.
And here's the reason why I made this decision.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's so important. Because again, a lot of families have broken up because of it. Right? because everybody has their own sense of entitlement, and so that's that. But parents, whoever who's leaving something, it needs to be very, very clear, and it needs to be said. Like I remember my grandmother, my great grandmother, she was laying out here. You take this, you take this, you take this. But when it came to her house, um, the house was split up amongst her living children.
Hmm.
Same thing with my uncle. I had an uncle that passed away. He didn't designate it, but it just the way it kind of turned out. It went to all of his siblings, and if the siblings weren't alive, then it went to the next living a person in that lineup. So, but it did take a long time for all of that to take place. It just trust really solidifies problems, man. Because if not, you tied up in
Absolutely.
probate court forever.
Yep. Hmm.
Or start to disperse it before you leave.
Yeah. And like I said, my friends that do that work, they're not poor.
Yeah,
They earn their money. But they earn their money. They earn
they
it.
earn their money
They
because
earn their
it's a
money.
delicate place. It's a delicate place. But yeah, the things that people should be doing, and definitely, as we talked about earlier on, the beneficiary, because you forget that happened to my girlfriend. She had not changed. She had not changed her retirement from her ex husband,
Ah.
uh, and so when she retired, it was of course a question. It did turn out
Amicably?
amicably. It did turn out that person is a pastor, so he's like, oh, okay, because she was married to someone else. He's like, all right, but it don't always work like
It
that.
doesn't always work out that way. And I'll tell you, in my experience, when you have a 401k and the beneficiary the spouse of that the spouse of that person, and they are the named beneficiary on the paperwork. The mutual fund company, the record keeper, is not going to do an investigation. They're not going to
Mm-mm.
try and figure out who this is actually supposed to go to. So, they're if they have the beneficiary paperwork, if they have that, if they keep track of it, often they allow the employer to do that, and they ask the employer where it's supposed to go, and the employer pulls up the paperwork and says the beneficiary is X at this address, and so the check goes.
Mm-hmm.
So or if the record keeper, I mean, it's pretty simplified, but there's a few more steps in there. But the record keeper receives that paperwork, that death notice, and they look
Mm-hmm.
up in their files and they say, "Oh, this is the beneficiary," and they send the money. They're not trying to get in that. They're not trying to figure that out. And I would just say it is really, really, really tough to get money from someone who receives a check with their name on it.
Oh yeah.
You know, I mean, right, wrong, or indifferent,
It's tough.
a deal is probably going to have to be made.
Yeah, 'cause it's in ink.
Yeah, a deal is going to be made. So, if
Right.
you have
So.
kids, we have a lot of blended families, and that's a great reason to have a trust or a will or that's a great reason to think about this stuff. I'll just tell you that
Mhm,
right there.
mhm.
Think about that because you have some places, and I don't think don't think about it in a bad thing, right? I mean,
No.
you have some people you need to take care of,
Right.
and
Exactly.
you want to make sure that happens. So,
And I also think, in fact, I just heard this scenario the other day. Um, um, uh, uh, a couple, and they have one child, and one of the couples are a little older than the other, in age difference, and probably more than likely will be the first one to go. And so the wife is like, I'd like to have some insurance on that particular person, so to make sure that my daughter, she's 12, so life has got to go on. School and education's got to take place, and to help her be ready for in the event that something happens to her dad. And the dad's like, no, I don't know if I want you to put insurance on me. But I'm like, really? I don't know what is going on behind the scenes of that, but
Telling
it
you,
seems to
they're
me
just
like,
checking that oatmeal.
right, you would be going, oh, you know what? This is a good idea. I know I'm probably going to go before you, and
Yeah,
someone has to be here to take care of our child,
there you go.
um, and it shouldn't be a burden. So let's go get some insurance on me, right? And like maybe they think they're gonna be poisoned or something. I don't know what the heck it is, but it's not for that person. But I guess that person has to be a consenting person in this process.
Well, it's even more different than that. I have a very, very good friend whose husband passed away quite unexpectedly. Very
Mhm.
healthy, very fit, running around playing basketball, and dropped dead right there on the court. So, and they had been toying with the idea of getting insurance, toying with
Mm.
that so that, things would be taken care of just in case he or she passed away unexpectedly. So they knew they needed to get it done, and
Mhm.
they knew that it needed to be done soon. And they figured, okay, we'll do it when you come back. That's when we'll get it done. Mind
Mhm.
you, that was years. Their children are already 9 and 10 years old, right? So when you come
Mm.
back, we'll get this done. And of course, he passed away while she was away, right? Like
Mm.
the appointments are set, things are happening. So, you know, uh, there's an old saying that insurance people are the only ones who show up at your funeral with a check. Everybody else has their hand out. And
Mhm.
you kind of have to be, because now this lady had a spouse that had passed away. She's raising her children by herself, and her spouse is gone. That's a rough place to be because we wanted to put off and we didn't take care of it right away. The
Mhm.
other side of that is I have a friend who was about to marry someone, hadn't even married this woman yet, but was about to marry her. Didn't make very much money, but made sure that I knew that the insurance policy on him was substantial, and he was working to make sure that just in case something happened to him, she was going to be taken care of. So he let her know that that's the amount of love that he had for her, that if something happened to him, she was going to be taken care of. She knew it, which was great, but he needed to tell me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
For some reason. And I thought, wow, that's really, really
So
cool.
again, I think that was responsible of him because that said, I have told someone my intention.
Hmm.
And so if it becomes a question, this is a person that I respect. This is a person, I mean, you're a retirement plan advisor, so this is a person that is of importance, right? Just your expertise in what you do.
Oh, that's
If
very
I
cool.
Yeah, if I tell you, you can represent my decision in an impartial way.
I think it was even deeper than that. I mean, I think what you're saying is very true,
Mhm.
and it's so correct. You're spot on.
Mhm.
But in my friend's case, it was another affirmation of love for
Yes.
this person that had come into his life. Lovely lady, lovely, lovely
Mhm.
lady.
Mhm.
Um, but you know, he needed not needed. He wanted me to understand how deep his affection was for her, right? So by saying to me, "Hey, if I pass away, she's going to get this, da 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 da," that was his way of saying, "I really do care for this person." It was his way of letting me know it was really important for me to know how much he cared for this person. Uh, and I thought, wow, that's really cool. We think, oh, of course they know that I love them. Well, they know when you put it in writing, and
Mhm.
you and you work every month to make sure that that policy is paid up. And when
Mhm.
that happens, yeah, they know that you love them. That's a big commitment right there.
Mhm.
It's a big commitment.
Yeah.
So
No, I think that was a very mature and adult thing to do.
I think so. I think so.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, so I've taken a lot of time, so I'm going to read your bio and I'm going to let you
Mm-hmm.
get the last word. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, everybody. So this is Crystal Mitchell. She is a business coach and consultant, CEO of Mitchell Business Solutions, the
Mm-hmm.
co-director of Recycling Black Dollars. She's a co-host of The Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert, that weekly online radio show. She's an instructor at Mount San Antonio Community College, a certified network for teaching entrepreneurship instructor, and so sort of the train the trainer person, and a QuickBooks Pro Advisor financial strategist. My friend and colleague Crystal Mitchell, take us out.
All righty. So again, guys, this is all about preparation, planning, and making sure that we have all the things that we need in place, because there is no guarantee when that time will come. But you want to make sure the people that you love are taken care of after you're gone.
There you go. Couldn't have said it better than that. Thank you, Crystal. We will
You're
see
welcome.
you next week. Thanks for joining me. And we will see our guests next week as well. Anything you want to talk about next week?
I'll look and see. I
There
don't
you
know.
go. This is me putting you on the spot. Ninth answer. Okay. Have a great week. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye bye, everyone.
Bye bye.